What do you feel is the best use of the property the Kingsport Economic Development Board bought south of the railroad tracks? For everybody, that's the General Shale site.
I think the answer to that question remains to be seen. We are certainly evaluating that as a potential venue going forward. It's also in the opportunity zone, so there's going to be opportunities in terms of development and businesses over there. We are looking very hard at that. I don't like to make decisions without a lot of data. I think folks that know me know that's just who I am. I like to see data. We are doing a study on what a venue would look like and cost. We are also doing a study on what the opportunity zones that might be over there would do and how that might generate money that would make things attractive for use over there. So I think at this point, I'm still on the fence, if you will, in terms of what we're going to do with that. The Brickyard Park is already there and successful. The Dirigible Field is going in, but there's certainly still a fair amount of land there with the railroad that we're going to try to find what's the best use for the citizens of Kingsport for that land.
Well, this between our government and our citizens. As someone who's been to many, many homes, I've lost 10 pounds, by the way. You'll be seeing less of me in the future because I'll be losing more. But the citizens are appalled about that we made this purchase. What do you do with it now? I don't know, but on the front end, I wouldn't have made that decision. I would have put more money toward filling the potholes and fixing the streets. That's the number one issue that the citizens tell me when I go door to door to door. There's a disconnect. They say, how can these guys be thinking about building a sidewalk on Stone Drive or burying power lines when we're going across these streets? And I'm getting tired of third world comparisons to Kingsport. You know, we want people to move to Kingsport. Let's make it look great. It's a great place to live, but let's fix it, the basics.
There are no questions we have opportunities, but the opportunities need to be consistent with what the people in our community want. That's something, 7 people do not determine what a community wants and needs. And we need to evaluate many of the things that basically have become the priorities for our leaders. We need to look at what do our citizens want? What's most important? And as Pat said, all you have to do is open up your door in the morning and you will hear, fix the roads.
I've heard a lot of talk about maybe building a new baseball stadium there, and I think that's almost the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard in my life. It's almost as ridiculous as the sidewalk on Stone Drive. It's almost as ridiculous as the bike lane on Center Street, which, by the way, I'd like to remind everyone, Mr. McIntyre was part of the city government that gave us that. Thank you, Mike. Okay, now, if you really want to bring more tourists to Kingsport, more business to Kingsport, we need to expand Fun Fest, have more concerts, get people to come from Atlanta, come to from Charlotte, come from Asheville, come from Knoxville just to see concerts here. And if you really want to have more sporting events here, get an AAF team to play at J. Fred Johnson Stadium. It will be a sold-out crowd at every single game, and people will come from all around to see pro football in Kingsport. Thank you.
Yes, I'm the same with that. Is get the roads looking good, Kingsport looking good, and then we can go on from there and even use that property for some other development than the baseball field. We got one over there that's hardly being used now. I'd rather see our roads being fixed, or people being a little bit happier, and more people want to come here and live. I moved here 15 years ago. I liked the area, and I grew to like it a lot more than I did up in New York. And the taxes are better, the weather's better, and I just like to see this place look a little better than what it is. Even our infrastructure around the buildings, I see some people are already putting in new windows, fixing up storefronts. I'd like to see a lot more of that. And we're giving people, incentives to do that. And that's good because it helps them take that step to go and do that.
Thank you. Our next question, Mr. Shell, you will be the first responder. While the individual states make the decisions for a COPA, a certificate of public advantage, for a hospital merger, should the mayor of Kingsport have a role with issues and decisions like trauma level designations and neonatal intensive care units?
Well, the mayor is looked on as a leader within the community and should reflect the citizens' concerns. The city shouldn't be in the business of leaning on any business. But to address this question, you can't do it in 60 seconds. So toward that end, this morning I released a statement on ballot health to the media. I emailed Mary Lee, and she can share that with Quanians. I had 3 concrete suggestions. One is, Mayor, I would formally request that Ballard put a BMA member on their board. 2, that Ballard provide technical and financial assistance to our first responders. Example, our EMS ambulances at Sullivan County need new cardiac monitors. And 3rd, that Ballard has any major announcements that they talk to the city first. If they're gonna make big changes and all that, and consult with us. The mayor should be attuned to this. My father was a doctor. I commanded medical units in the Army.
There's no question that the mayor should have a role in a COPA. The mayor represents the people. The COPA is only for the aspect of the best interest of citizens. That's the whole rationale for a COPA. Now, it's my understanding that there was a, quote, resolution passed by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen in support of this process. And so there's no question the mayor should and did have a role in this particular COPA. But if we look at the President of the United States, Donald Trump, just passed not passed, but ordered a study in October of 17 that basically said COPAs are necessarily bad and need to be looked at as a result of going against antitrust.
Back to Mr. Carter.
I'd just like to point out a few things with this regard. Number one, back in 2016, the FTC came out opposing this. They said that it would create a near monopoly, it would lead to higher prices, it would lead to worse quality of care. So naturally, the state governments of Tennessee and Virginia certified the dang thing anyways. I would also like to point out that there is an Eastman executive by the name of David Golden, who is also on the Ballard Health Board of Directors. He's the executive of safety and sustainability. How can he do that when he's also spearheading something that will take the level 1 trauma center to Johnson City? That will hurt the safety of his employees, and I think that's a clear conflict of interest. And number 3, I would just like to point out that Mr. McIntyre here made a public statement on September 1st, 2016 at the Renaissance Center here in Kingsport in support of Ballard Health. And I've already handed out about 30 printed handouts of your statement, sir. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Mr. Matt.
Yeah, Ballard Health, I see that wasn't good for us. Once you start paying doctors a wage, you're not gonna get as much care as a doctor that's collecting from, like I do service work, and I get paid a certain amount. You're gonna get better service from that doctor than you are somebody getting paid. I'd rather try to fight to keep our trauma center here in Kingsport.
Thank you.